All right, folks, today is a special one. Most of the time, I'm bringing you artists, players, and gear talk from the road, but this time we're taking it all the way back to my roots. I've got with me one of my earliest guitar teachers, the man who showed me how to really dig into this six-string journey, the one and only Jaye Urgo.
Brad, thank you so much for having me here. It's really a pleasure.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And man, you sent over your bio yesterday, and dude, I was blown away with how many bands and projects and stuff that you've done. Dude, I can honestly say I don't know anybody that's done more stuff than you.
Well, to be fair, some of those bands hardly qualify for much more than hobby bands, but I kept myself busy.
Yeah. That's incredible, man. And I want to take it all the way back.
Okay.
William and Mary,
Yep.
right? So you went to William and Mary. Tell me about that.
Well, as I told you, I grew up in kind of a non-musical household, and I started playing guitar just a month before I graduated from high school. And I won't bore you with the early guitars with the high action and so forth. But I went off to college, and I hope this will inspire somebody. But I got a face full of negativity about my guitar playing when I was a freshman and sophomore at William and Mary. I heard a lot of Urgo, you suck. Would you please stop playing? And that sort of motivated me, if you know what I mean. I
Yeah.
said, I'm going to show those SOBs.
Yeah.
So I just kept at it. And I answered an ad for a band that was forming. And those guys just didn't have any other good alternatives. So I joined them. And it was a bass player and a drummer and a rhythm guitar player, singer, songwriter that sort of converged in Williamsburg together, that were from New Jersey. And they were very kind to me. They taught me the ropes of band etiquette and what to do, and they put up with my limited skills, and I grew immensely with them. And yeah, so and that was the Quarter Path Band, and we were sort of a square peg in a round hole in the Tidewater Peninsula music scene, because what was getting really popular and getting booked outside of the confines of the campus were bands that did Grand Funk and Deep Purple and stuff like that. We were playing. We did play Allman Brothers, but we also played a lot of Grateful Dead and Fleetwood Mac, and softer stuff, some country rockish stuff, and so we didn't really, and we weren't really well received in any of the military clubs except for the Coast Guard base, which we loved that gig. So we saw the writing on the wall, and to make a long story short, we converted ourselves into a lounge band because there was plenty of work for that. And as you know, there were like five different hotels in Williamsburg that were tourist lounges, booked bands 6 nights a week, and you didn't have to move your gear, and you had plenty of work.
Yeah.
They gave, and one of our selling points was, since we lived in Williamsburg, they only had to give us one room for the week or the 3 week engagement.
Yeah.
And so we worked steady for 2 years. Bonhomme Richard 3 weeks, Ramada West 3 weeks, Sheraton Patriot for 4 weeks. You know the drill.
Yeah.
And at concurrently with that, I took lessons from Bob Retker, who was the guitar player in the Army Continental Band based in Fort Monroe in Phoebus, Virginia. And he was a marvelous guitar teacher. I wasn't I wasn't advanced enough to take advantage of everything he showed me, but he showed me like drop two voicings that I use to this day. So I grew a lot in that experience. So that takes us up to where I went up to Connecticut, worked for my dad for a couple of years, but didn't like being in Connecticut, and came back to Virginia. Everything was cool with my dad. And then I gave lessons, and that's where I met the great Brad, my all-time favorite guitar student. And I'm not saying that
Oh
just
man.
because I'm on this video. I've had one other student that had the stick-to-itiveness and intellectual curiosity that Brad displayed even at that young age.
Man, thank you so much for that. It was pivotal at the time that we connected, because I had had a bad initial experience with a guitar teacher who said you'll never be able to play. And then I had a school teacher who showed me how to play some cowboy chords, right?
Was that a nun?
No, it wasn't a nun, but it was the music teacher, at the Catholic school. And then I was able to play like folk kind of style at that point, because you see the chord C, and I know it's this fingering, and you so you can start playing John Denver songs and stuff like that. But I wanted to play electric guitar.
Right.
And so when that thing started, when I got my first electric, I'm like, okay, I got to find somebody that knows how to play electric guitar, and that's when you entered into the picture. That's when I showed up at your doorstep. It was like a duplex. Is that
Right across the street from Phi Beta Kappa Hall.
right across the street from the college? It's a little small town. It was at what, 10,000 people at the time,
Yep.
and you had an Epiphone. What was the model of that?
I had an Epiphone Casino. It was a 66. It had one P90 right in the middle, so it was neither optimized for jazz nor rock.
Blues, maybe optimized for blues, right?
I made it work for most of the lounge band stuff. I also had a Hagstrom Swede.
And so now I want to go back to this lounge stuff, because that was before, like, I didn't really had seen really a lounge band or anything at this point in time, but I knew, and I don't remember all the names of them, but I remember driving by. There was that one kind of near Eastern State, the interstate, the little road there, and it would always have the closed circuit TV boxing events and stuff like that. So I
I
know.
I believe that was the Hilton,
Okay.
and the Hornsby brothers used to play there.
So Bruce Hornsby used to play there?
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
with the Hornsby brothers band with Bobby on bass. And I knew Bruce okay from I worked at the Bandbox record store too. That's another facet of this. And so I would see Bruce from time to time. Became pretty good friends with Bobby, who I'm still in touch with, who played bass. And they had a killer pedal steel player. Don't remember his name. And they were way advanced from the rest of us. You could already see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is, though, knowing that back then there was all this work in this small town. Dude, it's a small town. It's still a small town, although there's, I don't know, a lot more people there now, I
Well,
guess.
you know why that is, Brad? Because back in those days, a family would come with their kids and they would stay a week to do colonial Williamsburg. Now they might take a stroll down Dog Street, and the rest of the time is at Busch Gardens and Water Country. But back then, it would be a week of colonial Williamsburg, and they would stay at the hotel for a week and enjoy the pool and so forth. And so you had this built-in audience. You had the regular barflies. We were fortunate enough to actually have a handful of people who would follow us from bar to bar, from lounge to lounge. And then you had a different audience every week with these tourists who would come and go. And so it was great. It was a no lose situation.
Yeah.
And Monday through Thursday, I'd be home in time to watch the Carson show. And
Yeah.
then Friday and Saturday, we'd throw down and,
Yeah.
pull out the Chaka Khan and so forth and
Yeah.
really rip it up.
And that's wild, because you think about now, I don't even think I could go to Williamsburg. I've never played a gig in Williamsburg.
Wow.
Never played a gig. I remember one time I came home from LA, and I went down to the Greenleaf like during lunchtime, and I said, "Hey, I'm in town, and I got a few musician buddies here. They'd like to come play a little gig or something." And it just kind of blew me off, and it's now, I mean, dude, would you even be able to play? There's not that kind of work anymore, right?
Well, there's never been much of a music scene in Williamsburg. I mean, the Hornsby Brothers band playing at the Hilton and playing at the cellar beneath the Greenleaf was about the height of it.
Yeah.
And that's there's never really been much of a scene there.
But remember back then, William and Mary Hall would have concerts.
Yeah, oh yeah.
The Grateful Dead played at William and Mary Hall. Do you remember that?
I was there both nights, and pretty much it cured me of being a Grateful Dead fan because they were so repetitive and sloppy and unorganized. And I was, at that time, I was really getting in. I was basically listening to Marvin Gaye and, Wilson Pickett and Lee Morgan, Dexter Gordon, and John Coltrane and Herbie Hancock. So I was not listening to a lot of rock music other than what I played in bands.
Yeah.
At that for a long time, really.
And from what I understand, they plan. Here's how people don't really plan things, but this is for deadheads out there if they just happen to be tuning in. They booked the Grateful Dead on Parents' Weekend. That's what I heard. Now I don't know. Did you remember that?
I don't remember that, but it was back when they were doing this thing, and we thought it was special, but it turned out it was just a thing. They would plan to play 2 nights in whatever town, and at the end of the first night, they would announce, "How would everybody like to come back tomorrow night for some low price, like $5, and there won't be any chairs. It'll just be, And they did. This is what they did. That's why they played 2 nights in a row. And there were like 75 dudes pressed up against the stage in front of Jerry Garcia, and every time he went dip dip dip, they would just go nuts. Yeah. I mean, and he played this. Listen, I have great respect for his ability. You hear him play acoustic with David Grisman. The guy was a great guitar player. But what he did with the Grateful Dead, he wore out some licks, I'll tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I remember hearing from people that the parents came for Parents' Weekend, and you can imagine the lawns of William and Mary all of a sudden filled with all these, I guess deadheads, flower children, hippies, whatever you want to call them, and the horror, because Virginia it's a very conservative feeling state. Whether you're whatever side of the political aisle you're on, you're still like khakis and and button downs and sweaters and that kind of thing. So to see these people there, I mean, I heard it kind of changed what William and Mary ended up booking there. I don't know.
I don't know, but I mean, I saw a ton of bands there. Saw Traffic twice, Jethro Tull, Joni Mitchell on the Miles of Isles tour. Wow. I could go on, but you get the idea. It was a good time to be there to see concerts.
Yeah, and I lament now that because I saw the Clash, I saw Stevie Ray Vaughan, the Alarm, and the Pretenders on one bill for like $12.
I was at that show.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think there's even a bootleg of the Stevie Ray Vaughan at William Mary Hall somewhere out there.
It wouldn't surprise me. Archivists are everywhere. I think you can hear both nights of that William and Mary Grateful Dead show on their archives. Yeah.
But no, think about it now. When's the last time they had a concert there?
I don't know, but I think they're in the process of renovating Kaplan Hall, and it was just terrible acoustically, but every place else was terrible too. Yeah. It was better than the Richmond Coliseum.
Yeah.
So bands bands went there, and also it was a very chill place for bands. We talked to the roadies of the Grateful Dead, and they just said this is a good place for us to just hang out. They took over the Commonwealth Hotel, kind of a flea trap near Monticello Shopping Center,
Yeah.
and they just sort of took that over. They took over a couple of floors of that, so they chilled out for a while.
Yeah. And man, like you said, it sounded, I always thought William Mary Hall sounded better than Richmond or Hampton.
Yes, yes,
And Hampton, I mean, here's the thing that I always thought about Virginia is they just don't ever seem to do anything as far as like you go to Nashville and they're constantly building some new amphitheater or some new thing and some new attraction to like bring people in. And you go to Virginia and it's still the same Hampton Coliseum and it's still the same Richmond Coliseum and it's and then
that that has actually changed because John Paul Jones Arena at UVA, which is now about 10 or 12 years old, is great acoustically,
ah
and they've had Paul McCartney and
wow
and the Police and everybody there.
yeah
And also the big thing, as you know, are these outdoor
yeah
amphitheaters, and they're all over the place. They just opened another new one called the Allianz Amphitheater right in downtown Richmond, right
oh
next to the
wow
river.
wow
And that apparently is a parking nightmare. I have not been,
ah
but sound is better in those places. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's good to hear, man, because it always just felt like I see other places doing things. Like when I moved to Nashville, there was nothing. It was the biggest like letdown in the world. It was like, oh God, what did I do? But gradually they just kept bringing in NFL and bringing in NHL and bringing in more music venues and doing things. And it just never seems like Virginia doesn't make an effort to really try to do anything like that. You used to have the what was this? Virginia Squires.
right, right, right.
And they were good. They had what didn't Dr. J or somebody play for the Virginia Squires?
I don't know, but it was that ABA era.
Yeah.
I was more following college basketball at the time, but yes,
Yeah.
you're right. The trouble there is that if you look at it on paper, the Tidewater area is right for a professional team. The problem is it's split in two by this horrible, and they've never sorted out the traffic with
Yeah.
the tunnels and so forth.
Yeah.
So ingress and egress is a nightmare, and of course, then you have the very recalcitrant city fathers,
Yeah.
who it's
Yeah.
it's a mess.
Now you've been in Charlottesville for a while, right?
I've been in Charlottesville since 2005. Before that, I was in Nelson County, which is basically the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. And
Wow.
I had 13 acres and designed and built my own house in Nelson County, about halfway between Charlottesville and Lynchburg.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you physically built your own house.
I obviously subcontracted out a lot of it, but I
Yeah.
had a hand in everything from digging the footer to doing trim work and framing, everything except drywall and wiring. I
Wow.
participated in. Yeah,
Wow. That's
yeah,
amazing because I think I remember at some point I was we were taking lessons and then I think you moved somewhere or something and I think the next time I we saw you somewhere you were doing construction or something like
right,
that.
right. Yeah,
And
I my wife got a teaching. My then wife, my Stephen's mom, as I refer to her, got a job over in Surrey County. So we moved over there, which was because she had taken the turn of commuting, taking the ferry one year, and then the second year, it was only fair for me to be the one that had to take the ferry to go to work.
yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, and so that's where you got those skills to be able to build your own house later in life.
I was never a great carpenter, but I learned enough to be dangerous. And I'll tell you, after I finished the house and we moved in, I didn't want to hang a curtain rod after that. I was done with it.
Yeah, that's a lot of work, man. I can't imagine. I can't imagine doing that.
It was pretty hairy at times. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, doing that, and then all the while, you still played right up until you said about the mid 80s, right?
Right. I took a break from bands. It's funny, you have your bands suck video and so forth, and I laugh at the fact that I was a little bit burnt out with bands in 1985 because I've been, once I started, I've been playing for decades
Yeah.
again and having the same kind of cat herding issues that I did then.
Yeah.
But yeah, I took a break right before my son was born and when he was really young and playing t-ball. And I was also I also found that something I was good at and enjoyed, which was advertising for the TV station in Charlottesville. So I was kind of getting my career established.
Yeah. And so you took that break, but you probably still had that guitar sitting around there, right?
Didn't play it all that much, but I remember, for example, Stephen uh, being beside me on the bed and watching the original Thomas the Tank Engine episodes on Shining Time Station and playing along with the theme. Those were the episodes that Ringo narrated, which were a gas.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, I played, but not nearly as much during that time period of time.
Yeah. And so I know when you were doing the lounge stuff, getting back to that, there was a few. There was Cabot or Wade Smith band or
Right,
something
Smith
like
Wade,
Smith
Smith Wade.
Wade and Bruce Hornsby, of course, who people may know. I mean, it's crazy to think that that small town could nurture all that talent and the quarter path band and stuff. And I've had this conversation with even the guitar player for Rick James, Tom McDermott.
Uh-huh.
He
I've heard
cut,
of him.
yeah, he cut his teeth playing in lounge bands in the Valley in California, and he could work, 5 nights a week until one day somebody said, "Hey, I want you to come audition for this band I'm playing with. The guy's called Rick James." And he just walked in and they go, "Okay, you got it." They didn't even it was like they figured we want to have a diverse band. We got this long-haired white dude. This is what we need in this group. You
Well,
know?
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you got it.
Here's my take on the lounge band thing. Of course, being hippies, it was a tough decision for us to trim our hair and wear a suit with a ruffled shirt and play up to and including "Love Will Keep Us Together" by the
Yeah.
Captain and Tennille.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. Number one, I was taking those lessons with Bob Retker, and got to play standards for our cocktail set. So I got to put into use the fundamentals I was learning about playing standards. That was number one. And number two, and above all, I was a professional musician. I quit my job, my part-time job at the college bookstore, and I could look at people and say, I play music full time. I am a professional musician. It doesn't matter if you think playing long train running and Rhiannon is lame.
Yeah.
That's what I do for a living. I don't have to swing a hammer. I don't have to pack up books. I'm a musician. And
Yeah.
that was such it gave me a sense of completion about the whole music thing, even though, and then what happened later on was it got to the point where we really couldn't stay in Williamsburg and do what we wanted to do. So we talked to DC Allman of Southern Orchestras. And I just decided, no, I had met my wife and I didn't want to go on the road and have my stuff in a storage locker and live in hotel rooms 3 weeks at a time. So and I've never been much of a singer. So I didn't see myself doing the Louis McGee thing where I have 5 gigs a week playing and singing. So
Right.
I decided best thing for me to do is to find something I can do during the day
Yeah.
and have some money in my pocket.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's an important lesson, and it's something I've talked about so much on this channel. And man, personally, if somebody called me tomorrow and said, "Come do this gig, we're going to play Rhiannon and we're going to play Long Train Running," I'd say record key, and I count it up. I don't have any qualms about playing anything. I'm not the harbinger of what is hip.
That's the definition of being a professional, Brad.
Yeah, but dude, I've known a lot of people that have said, I don't want to play September by Earth, Wind and Fire.
Right.
Like, it's a killer friggin' song, dude.
No kidding.
And people love it. But
Absolutely.
in their mind, it's not hip. And so they don't do it. Well, guess what ends up happening? They don't get called.
No kidding.
And
Well, yeah, well, on that note, when I was playing in the soul band, Soul Transit, doing stuff like James Brown and Wilson Pickett, one day at practice, I turned on the phaser and whipped out Long Train Running, and I mentioned it to somebody, and then they saw us at a gig and we were doing it, and he said, "I thought that was a joke." I said, "No." I started playing it, and everybody chimed in, and our lead singer had never heard it because he was definitely from the soul tradition.
yeah.
But he dug it once he got into it, and it
Yeah.
became one of our most popular numbers.
Yeah. That's ironic because when I played down at BB King's in Nashville with the BB King All Stars, that was one of the songs they called when we had to do classic rock, because they would make us mix it up and kind of play some stuff. That was one of the tunes that we played. And
Absolutely.
it translates whether it's a funk band or a rock band or whatever. It's got a good groove. It's got a melody. It's Here's the other thing. It's not that complicated, that anybody can play it and play it with whatever feel you want to play it with. And it's if a guy in the band it's a new guy that night, and I've never heard that. You play it, he picks. By the time you get round to the thing, one time he knows it, and he's playing along too. So I think this is a important lesson. And the other lesson that you said about playing your standards, getting to play these lounge gigs, because that's when you get challenged, is the early part of the night.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that's why we do it. We're trying to get better as musicians.
And on this general theme, I understand why people are tired of Mustang Sally, for example. But when somebody says, "Oh, I refuse to play Mustang Sally," I say, "Okay, well, let me ask you this: when is the last time you listened carefully to the original Wilson Pickett version and appreciated how damn wicked that groove is?" Because I was playing a sloppy version in a band, and the keyboard player, who was an R&B aficionado, and said, "This doesn't have the right groove." And I went back and listened to the record, and it changed, blew my mind
Yeah.
how cool it was.
Yeah.
And the same people, it's a 1-4-5, and the same people will play any one of a number of blues tunes and not over and over again and not object to them.
Yeah.
But Mustang Sally is their whipping boy. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I had an R&B drummer. He had a good comeback for that. I don't want to play, or I don't want to play that, or I don't like playing that. It says, okay, then play it better.
There
If
you
you
go.
don't like playing it, then play it better.
That's great.
Here's the thing, man. And obviously go back to the records, listen to it, because a lot of times, and I'm guilty of it, we learn songs on the gig. you start playing songs in a band, and maybe they have their own arrangement or they have their thing that they do. But you can also breathe new life into these songs. If you're a band that's creative and your drummer decides he's going to play the groove a little bit different that night or whatever, then come up with a cool new part and make that thing fresh. You don't have to play it exactly the same every night. I mean, yes, that would be monotonous, but if you play, let's say you're playing Brick House, right? That rhythm guitar has got to be so locked into those drums. If you can't stay awake and focused and have fun locking that thing in every night, then I don't know what to tell you.
Exactly. Exactly. I, um, I was one of the bands that I was in. We did Let's Get Physical by Olivia Newton-John when it was on the radio. And here's the thing. We did it as a joke, but again, it became one of our most popular numbers. And what we did was the female singer didn't start singing right away. We grooved on the groove for a few minutes, and the dance floor would fill. And then she'd come in with the vocals, and people would look at us like we had betrayed them, but they're already out there loving it, because
Yeah.
I heard the song and I said, oh, of course it's a corny song, but listen to that damn groove.
Yeah.
Even Love Will Keep Us Together. Forget the vocals and the lyrics. Listen to that damn groove.
Yeah.
The captain knew what he was doing.
Yeah, and Physical, that's all the LA cats. That's Lukather and
Of course.
whoever was on
Jeff
drums,
Porcaro, probably.
Porcaro or whoever. And man, here's the thing, man. If you want to play music and you want to work, it really shouldn't matter to you what you're playing. It's all music.
Exactly, and
Right?
it doesn't matter if you're evaluating a song or a player. One of my number one pieces of advice to younger players is think twice before you say that sucks or that player sucks. Think twice before you say that.
Yeah. And look, a lot of guys, there might be a couple guys in the 80s that were in bands that I wasn't really a fan of. And I'm, I would often go, yeah, I don't like that guy's playing. But now these people are going, oh, that guy's underrated, and oh, isn't this great? And they're more popular than Van Halen in some ways. I'm not going to necessarily name the name, but you could just say it was a glam offering from
Right.
from the hair metal scene, and people relate to that more than say, Van Halen, which was a lot more organic and a lot more talented group.
Yeah. Well, one of the things about taking that break from bands from 85 to 92 was I missed that whole, the height of the hair metal craziness. And I recognize how good the guitar playing is and so forth. I could certainly never pull off the styles, but it's never been my cup of tea. But that's what I say. It wasn't my cup of tea. Not that
Yeah.
it sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was a whole thing, man. I saw that come in as far as I was really into the Stones, probably 77. I was into Hendrix and the Stones. And then probably about 1979, I went into Woolworth or someplace like that and saw the Van Halen
Van
record.
Halen. Yeah.
And I put that on the turntable, and
Boom.
I couldn't fit. I'm like, what the hell is this guy doing? It to me it just sounded like a guy going ape shit.
Yeah, it was.
And,
It was.
and I had a clean, Fender amp and a MXR Distortion Plus.
Yep.
And so I'd, put that, crank the distortion all the way up and just try to mimic the feeling. I had no idea. There was no way back in those days how we could even learn it or figure it out. It
I was
just,
just as puzzled, like, how is it, how is it possible he's playing that fast? Since you mentioned the Stones, before we get too far afield, going back to your student days, I want your audience to know that I recognize that Brad had swagger when he was like 10 years old. He just had something that none of my other students had, period. And the two songs that we worked on that were my favorite, and one of which carried him all the way to, I think, the county, at least winning the county talent contest. Uh, "Miss You" by the Rolling Stones, and "Rock and Roll Fantasy" by Bad Company.
yeah.
And Brett, you should have seen 10-year-old Brad playing "Miss You." I mean, he had the swagger, and he sold that.
I appreciate that, brother, man. It's hard for me to hear compliments because we're musicians and we're always trying to get better. But I will say this, dude, that song carried me all up until my very last Nashville performance. I
Yep.
played that song, all through the decades, and when I'd be in a variety band or corporate band or whatever, when the singer needed a break, they'd go boom, and I'd do "Miss You" or one of those, songs like that. And here's the thing: for if there just happens to be any young guys watching or parents of young guys that are players, the songs that you learn when you're a kid, the songs that you play when you're coming up, that stuff's going to carry you, through your life a lot, especially if it's classic stuff.
Absolutely. I would love to play All Right Now in a band tomorrow. I mean, that's, what can you say?
Yeah, and probably maybe down on Nashville and Lower Broadway, there might be somebody cranking that one out. There
Right
might
now.
right now somebody might be playing that. It's amazing to see where things are. Back in those days when you guys were playing these lounges and stuff, what kind of rig were you playing through?
That's funny because I was playing an Ampeg VT40, 77 pounds, I think it was. And, obviously had it on about one and a half. And I was too dumb to realize that I could have gotten a 15-pound solid state amp, and it would have done the job. But
Yeah.
I bought that amp long before we became a lounge band because I wanted to be able to play like Allman Brothers, loud and clean
Yeah.
without breakup, which was the thing back then.
Yeah.
By the time we were the lounge band, I had gotten a Distortion Plus, script logo
Yeah.
MXR Distortion Plus, and an MXR, a script logo Phase 100
Yeah.
that my son still has.
Wow.
And in fact, when the War on Drugs played on the David Letterman show, the keyboard player used it.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
so that's still alive and well.
so that takes me back because I remember you let me borrow the Phase 100, and so you're and getting into this, we don't want to I don't want to miss anything, but yes, your son went on to become a drummer,
Exactly.
and he played in the band The War on Drugs, which is it's still a well-known band.
Oh yeah, they won the Grammy for Best Rock Album in 2017.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
so they're still cooking now. He toured with them for what, like a year or something like that?
for about 2 years. He was basically their original drummer was basically on family leave.
Okay.
Left the band for a while to start a family, and so they recruited Steven, and he was with them in 2011 and 2012. And there's actually still there were videos of the Letterman and Fallon appearances until recently, and I went up for the tapings. And you talk about a
Wow.
proud papa with the,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I was like tears. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then he went on to play with a couple of bands that toured, not as well known, but did record and tour. and he still plays occasionally with a lady named Jess Cornelius out in Los Angeles. He's a data analyst. He lives in Los Angeles, loves it. He lived in Highland Park for a long time. Now he's in Glassell Park, has a lovely girlfriend. They have a beautiful house, and he's happy because he works from home and doesn't have to put up with the traffic, and still has his hand in the music scene.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing, man. So he got to experience touring. What did he tell you about it back then?
He certainly didn't have any stories of debauchery, first of all, but uh, one of the reasons why he was okay with leaving the band when he did was he said to me after one of their European tours, he said, "Dad, we go all these cool places and we don't get to see them, and I know that you can relate." So their touring schedule just blew my mind. You know, they would do 5 dates in a row, have one day off, and then have 5 more days in a row. So they did a whole European tour, and they had one free day in Berlin the entire time. And they play, and at the time they weren't big enough to just leave the stage, so they were helping pack their own stuff out, loading the van at 1 o'clock in the morning or whenever, and then driving however many hours to the next city, checking into the hotel, getting 4 or 5 hours of sleep, stumbling out, getting lunch, going right to sound check. And that's the drill that I know you're all too familiar with.
Yeah.
And they were, I don't, I went out and had drinks with them a few times. So they were a relatively clean cut bunch. So they didn't suffer, there were a couple of hangovers involved, but they didn't get too crazy, thankfully. And so that was the deal. And other than that, he didn't have a whole lot of tall tales to tell. I got to go down on the Letterman set after he played and so forth. And I don't have a whole lot to say other than that.
Yeah, that's amazing, man, and that's one of the things that I wished I'd gotten to do is one of those late night, TV shows that we were all watched David Letterman, dude. That
Right.
was when I was in college. It was like every night everybody went to the student, thing or whatever, and we'd all sit in these little, chairs, and everybody would watch David Letterman, and it was one of those things, and getting to see your son do that. I mean, I know that must have been just like the pinnacle moment.
And there's other footage that's still up on YouTube of him with War on Drugs. Do you remember the Letterman bit where he says, "Are those your drums or are they rentals?"
Yes.
Well, there's a video of that if you go to YouTube and you punch in Letterman, "Are those your drums?" And there's a big collage of him asking drummers of bands that. Yeah. And Steven is in that video at 1 minute and 30 seconds, and it's hilarious. It's hilarious.
That's amazing.
And they were good dudes to hang with too. So
yeah.
They were very nice to me, and actually I got to play a song with them at the Jefferson Theater when they came to Charlottesville when Steven was in the band. So I'm up there, with playing through my Princeton reverb, mic'd, of course, up on the drum riser with Steven, and that was a highlight, for sure.
That's amazing. Is that the Jefferson Theater? Is that the place I played at there in Charlottesville?
Pretty sure you played there with Colt Ford, yeah.
Yeah, it felt like the stage was at a slant. Am I remembering correctly, or no? That might have been Gainesville.
Okay, no, the stage.
But it's right downtown, right? It's
exactly. It's right on that walking mall, right on that pedestrian mall.
Yeah. We played there a couple times, and it was right at the same time when your son was out with War on Drugs, about
exactly
2011, 2012.
Exactly, yeah.
And that was, man, the Charlottesville scene. Did you ever run into like Tim Reynolds or any of those guys like that?
I was living in Nelson County at the time, and I rarely went into Charlottesville. And I heard, a lot of my friends saw Tim Reynolds, and also Danny Gatton played at tracks
Yeah.
several times. And I never saw any of those shows. I did see Concrete Blonde in Charlottesville. And one of the most memorable concerts I've ever been to was I saw the original lineup of the Pretenders at U-Haul, which had acoustics that made William and Mary Hall sound great. but,
Wow.
Chrissy Hynde was pissed off at the acoustics, and you could tell that the band was coming apart at the seams.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I'll never forget is that Pete Farndon, who was at that point in time getting in heavy into his drug
Yeah.
problem, was just turning up louder and louder, and he was just bludgeoning his bass. And Martin Chambers was obviously pissed off at him, and at one point took his drumstick and skimmed it off his ride cymbal and hit Farndon in the back of the head.
Wow.
But they were great, and James Honeyman Scott, oh
Yeah.
my gosh,
Yeah,
what
that's
a great
that's
player.
that's that one that's one of those bands that I'll go down a rabbit hole every now and then and watch old Pretenders clips, because by the time I saw him at William Mary Hall, it was the new guitar player and
Right.
different bass player,
Billy Bremner, yeah.
and that band was good too. That guitar
Oh yeah.
player he's like a famous guy. Played with John Mayer, and he's done a lot of different stuff. I can't think of his name now.
Robbie McIntosh.
Yes, Robbie McIntosh, great player, but there was something about that original lineup. They
Yeah.
had everybody looked really cool. They had their own like vibe, and it just seemed like Pete Farndon just went down that rock and roll path into excess and ego.
Yeah. Well, James Honeyman Scott is one of the most, in my mind, is one of the most unique players that there's ever been, in that he was like the perfect intersection of British jangle rock and the harder stuff
Yeah,
and the punkier stuff.
yeah,
All you need to do is listen to the track Kid,
yeah,
and you will hear everything you need to know about
yeah.
James Honeyman Scott. And they still play that on the radio. And I'm only one of a million guitar players who will mention that track in
Yeah.
particular as very influential.
Yeah, that solo on Kid is like perfection. And who's the guy, the British guy with the cool haircut, played with Morrissey?
Johnny Marr.
Yeah, Johnny Marr cited that solo as something that he plays backstage to warm up like every night. Like it inspired him, and the kind of the difficulty of that clean kind of solo like that. That solo reminds me, and it might be heresy to say it, but it reminds me of New Kid in Town, the guitar solo for the Eagles. That
Yeah,
clean sort of sliding into the notes kind of ringing off. That's there needs to be more guitar solos like that.
absolutely, absolutely. And I've never been much of a high gain guy. I have played so loud that that I've driven the tubes into overdrive, and where it's appropriate, I'll definitely stomp on my pedals. But
Yeah.
I'm much more acclimated and oriented towards that type of sound.
Yeah, yeah, and to take it to the latest endeavors that you're doing, you're not only playing in Virginia, but you're splitting your time in Mazatlán, Mexico. Is that correct?
That's correct. Mazatlán is a tourist town on the west coast of Mexico, about 6 hours north of Puerto Vallarta. I have a condo that is right in the historic center of Mazatlán. I play two or three gigs a week there, and I walk to my gigs. I don't have a car
Wow.
there. I'm 3 blocks from the main Plazuela, which has all kinds of restaurants, and 7 blocks from the Malecón, which is the seawall boardwalk.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love it there. When I'm there, I miss Virginia, and When I'm in Virginia, I miss Mazatlán, but
Yeah.
it's a nice combination. It's always been my dream to spend the winter someplace warm, so now I
Yeah.
am.
So you snowbird it down to Mazatlán.
Exactly. Well, and the whole story is that I met my lovely wife Julieta. When I was contemplating retirement, I knew that I wanted to spend time in a warm place, and I knew that I wanted to learn their language of wherever I was going to spend the winter. So I started studying Spanish, and on a language exchange app, not looking for romance.
Yeah.
We met each other on that language exchange app with conversations like this, and then I went down to visit her, and I fell in love with Mazatlan and with her, and the
Wow.
rest is history.
Wow,
So
that's amazing.
yeah, yeah, it is amazing.
And so
Very fortunate.
she comes to Virginia with you during the summers, and then she goes down with you to Mazatlan.
Right. She's not here for the whole summer yet because she still has daughters at home. And even though
Ah,
they're 23 and 19, in that culture, the kids don't leave home after
yeah.
college the way they do here.
Yeah.
They stay at home until they get married. So,
Ah.
you know,
Well,
yeah.
maybe we can find them a couple of husbands. Man, that's an amazing story, man. And I remember seeing, there's clips of you, and I'm going to share whatever social media you want. Let me know through email what you want in the description of this video. But we'll pump up your Instagram or whatever you want to pump up, and you can see clips of you playing in Mazatlan
Right.
and just having the time of your life, man. And that's an amazing thing. Not many people get to do something like that.
Well, I feel very fortunate to still be in one piece at age 73, and that people want to hear what I do. So and in Charlottesville, you can't swing a dead cat without hitting a guitar player.
Ah,
So it's hard to find your niche, but I managed to get enough gigs to keep me happy.
yeah. So there's a lot of guitar players in Charlottesville.
Oh my gosh. Well, for and just to give you a little bit of background here too, Brian Craddock of Daughtry is from Charlottesville. Met
Okay.
him at Charlottesville Music, as well as Sam Wilson, who was with the Warren Treaty and is now with Mary Chapin Carpenter, and none other than Justin Derrico, the
Oh yeah.
incredible. Yeah, yeah. I mean, Justin is
So
is
he's
a
from
beast.
there as well.
Yes, he is.
Wow.
His brother, who was still playing in bands here recently as a drummer, Justin. When I was in Betty Gone Bad in the early aughts, Justin was a 16-year-old hanging out and taking lessons at Charlottesville Music.
Wow. Why do you think that Charlottesville has such a huge music scene? What is it?
University town, for one thing.
Ah.
Yeah,
The college. So do they have a music program there?
they do. But, well, it's not a real. If you really want to get into music, you go to James Madison or Shenandoah.
Okay.
You don't, for the most part, but they do have some world class players teaching there, including a trumpet player named John Dirth, who actually played in Miles' band in the late stages of Miles, and also he and a wonderful drummer named Robert Jospe recorded with Emily Remler.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And of course, the Dave Matthews guys, all came from there. And I'll tell you, this is a funny story. Carter Beauford, that plays drums for Dave
Yep.
Matthews. He was a associate of the Wooten brothers, so we
Yep.
all kind of knew each other back in the day. And I can remember Carter going out to L.A. and he came out to a jam that we had in our rehearsal studio or whatever. And he stayed out in LA for, I don't know, maybe a week or 2 weeks. And he went back home to Virginia. And I thought, man, I'll never see that guy on the big stage, again or whatever. And he goes back home to Charlottesville. And next thing you know, I turn it on MTV and there's Carter on, so you just never know, man. Sometimes you're building something where you're at, and a college town where you've got a captive audience there if you can entertain them.
That's right. That's right. There's a slew of opportunities to play in the Charlottesville area. It may not pay a whole lot, but if you want to play, you can find, and you're any good at all, you can, and you know how to present yourself. Importantly,
Yeah.
There's opportunities to gig.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I imagine that Tim Reynolds he's still doing TR3 gigs.
That's right. He is, and he plays in Charlottesville occasionally. Yeah.
But he's not still there anymore, you don't think?
I don't know exactly, but some friends of mine, like the guy who worked at Charlottesville Music Center, who became a very close friend of mine, comes to my house to do guitar setups. He's friends with him and probably knows. He's like in touch with Sam Wilson and Justin Derrico.
Yeah.
And so I get my news about them from Rob.
Yeah. You got
Yeah.
intel. You got the inside
I got
information.
intel from the great Rob Walker. Yeah.
Man, I used to see Tim Reynolds play at James Madison University in these little small clubs with his original TR3, and he'd show up with a little Yamaha solid state. Remember with the like the Vox kind of grill on it, solid state amp, and maybe a couple pedals, and a Squire Strat. He had a Squire, like one of the Japanese Squires. And dude, he would go from one song to the next and cop the vibe of whatever guitar player he was playing. I had a bootleg tape. My buddy ran sound, and I said, make me a board mix with just the guitar and just a little bit of drums and bass in the background. And I had that tape for a long time and would, got a couple little licks off of it, but he was an amazing player, man. And to think that it doesn't matter where you are, make the best, find your audience. And like you, dude, you've been playing all this time in more bands than anybody can imagine, with literally a list of bands like that. And it's all about just networking and making those connections and playing music because you love playing music.
And being humble, being a good bandmate, showing up on time, being polite to the people at the venue. Even if you get thrown a curveball, always be polite to the people at the venue.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Oh, by the way, just for a quick note, did you ever see Tim when he was doing his playing in a diaper and a gas mask thing?
No,
I did not see that in person, but he did that a number of times in Charlottesville.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never saw that. But he would always do crazy stuff. And
yeah.
He, if speaking of, I remember one time I saw him play in like the cafeteria or something at JMU, and it was super echoey. And he was like, thank you for JMU for putting us in this giant echo chamber, or something. Yeah, he was always a guy like on the edge, but just brilliant as far as, Hendrix 1 minute, Santana the next minute, then some stuff that sounds like Holdsworth the next thing.
He was a savant. He is a savant. Yeah.
He is a savant, man. And it's just proof that if you're talented, man, the cream will rise and you'll work. And like you said, man, be good to people, be kind, be on time, in tune, and relatively sober.
Right. And if, like me, you really don't have that much talent, at least work really hard.
Man, let me tell you something, man. You really set me on the path. And I would bring like Chuck Berry records to you, and you would show me how to play those intros and those Chuck Berry licks and stuff like that. And man, that was a huge part of me getting, the basics of rock and roll, which to me, I think every kid should start off learning that stuff, because that's, used to say all of Chuck's children are out there playing his licks. dude, that's what rock and roll was Chuck Berry.
Exactly.
That's all it was, man. And man, I want to thank you for this incredible interview and
Thank you.
getting to hook up with you again and talk about this and take a ride down memory lane, man, because you really played a huge part in helping me on the path.
Thank you so much. That's very kind of you. It was really gratifying being your guitar teacher for a while. And of course, you've surpassed anything that I could imagine or do. And one last note is love to your wife and your daughter. I really love seeing pictures of the three of you and the videos where Mia, right, comes
Yes.
in and messes with you when
Yes.
you're in your when you're doing your thing.
Yes,
She's a
yes.
cutie.
She is, man, and she's got the music bug. I don't know if she's gonna pick it up and run with it. And I would never encourage anybody going on that path because we both know it's a tough one. But when you love music, you just do it because you love it.
Right. And the only thing I did with Steven was I gave him access to my CD collection, and he took it from there.
There you go. You lead them, and if they choose to, you put the water out in the trough, and if they choose to drink, then let them drink.
Step two is you buy them a guitar so they stop messing with yours.
Yes, yes, absolutely, man. This has been amazing, and you know what? We'll have to do this again sometime. Maybe we'll do a round table. We'll get a bunch of us together and do something like that. That would be great.
I would absolutely love to. And Zoom works in Mexico too. So
awesome. Hey, we'll have to Zoom from Mazatlán, dude.
Hey, come visit me.
That would be great. Maybe we will do that sometime.
Okay, great.
Awesome. Thank you, brother.
Take care.
Have a great day.
You too.
See ya.